Hi, so we are Group 5, and for our chapter presentation, we have Chapter 10. That would be the Superior Strategy Execution, Another Path to a Competitive Advantage, and I am Tyler Ewing. So on our second slide, we have our learning objectives. Our first one, identify what managers must do to build an organization capable of good strategy execution. 2, explain why resource allocation should always be based on strategic priorities. 3, understand why policies and procedures should be designated to facilitate good strategy execution. Number 4, understand how process management programs that drive continuous improvement help an organization achieve operational excellence. 5, this is a third slide, recognize the role of information and operating systems in enabling company personnel to carry out their strategic roles proficiently. 6, explain how and why the use of well-designed incentives and rewards can be management's single most powerful tool for promoting and operating excellence. Number 7, explain how and why a company's culture can aid the drive for proficient strategy execution. And number 8, recognize what constitutes effective managerial leadership in achieving superior strategy execution. Okay, so slide 4, strategy execution. 1. So strategy execution requires all executives, managers, and employees to participate in a team effort to achieve the strategic goals set forth by the company. Strategy execution can be incorporated in all areas of business. That could be your sales, accounting, management, marketing, and for most case purposes, the best case scenario would be having some type of strategy that incorporates all sales, accounting, management, marketing all into one. So this is our first question. How does GoPro execute their merchandising, marketing, and advertising strategy effectively? How do they do not? Okay, so we are on slide 5. And here's the question. Here's the answer for the question. As I listen to the right, GoPro promotes a consistent brand across 3 different departments. It's merchandising. GoPro has 29,000 pop-up displays in retailers with video monitoring screens. And so that's kind of what their retail angle is. For their marketing, their core is their social media with user-generated content. So a lot of their marketing comes from people that actually have GoPros, and they post videos on YouTube, Instagram, of just places they've been. And this leads to advertising, which it creates a lifestyle generated by users such as athletes, entertainers, brands, celebrities. GoPro could, though, improve by allocating some of its resources in areas that are underperforming, such as their billboards, their trade shows, and more of their print material. And they could move more towards their e-commerce and focus still on their social media angle as well. So for slide 6, this is just a few examples of their merchandising. On the left, that would be one of their displays with their TV monitors. And then on the right, it kind of shows more of a lifestyle photo. A lot of pictures like this kind of show that this is the lifestyle that GoPro is trying to create from their use of an action camera. And in this video, it's actually GoPro's $1 Million Challenge, which promotes all 3 of their merchandising, marketing, and advertising. The one really cool thing I found about this is that they actually are giving away $1 million to someone who posts the best GoPro video using their brand new Hero 8. Okay, so we're on slide 7. The principal managerial components of strategy execution. So who implements strategy? Executives and managers are responsible for implementing strategy and ensuring that it is executed effectively. Proper guidance by upper management as well as streamlined systems of communication will allow for strategy to be executed successfully. And this leads me to our next question. What are some ways upper management can streamline communication between departments? So some ways that upper management can streamline their communication between departments would be, one would be build team group messaging to allow for instant responses. I personally got to experience some of this during my internship over the summer. The company I worked for was Impact Networking, and they used Microsoft Teams, which was really cool. We had specific groups for our sales department, just all the salespeople across the board, which was really cool because they would post their sales for the day, like if someone gets a sale, so you could always see who the big guys are with all the sales. And then they also had groups of just the people in our location, and it really just allows for communication to be distributed to everyone that needs to know it a lot quicker and easier. Another way would be to schedule weekly meetings between project heads, to set key performance indicators, to allocate resources effectively between departments, and in all, to just make the job easier for the employees themselves to be able to do their work. So slide 9. The principal managerial components of strategy execution 2. So the 8 components of strategy execution, here's figure 10.1 showing that, and then the next slide I will explain them. So the first one, building an organization with the capabilities, people, and structure needed to execute strategy successfully. And basically what that comes down to is hiring the right people in order to allocate your resources effectively. Hiring the right people is going to be one of the biggest components in strategy execution. To allocating ample resources to strategy critical activities. 3, ensuring that policies and procedures facilitate rather than impede effective strategy execution. And an example of that would be providing employees with the proper tools and also training and continuous training so that they don't fall behind in anything new that's also going on. Number 4, adopting process management programs that drive continuous improvement in how strategy execution activities are performed. So one example that I could think of from my internship would be automation processes. So in an accounting department, they may have too many people punching in numbers. There's actually softwares that you can come in that would make their job easier, so they don't necessarily need as many people, or even it just improves the efficiency of the people doing the tasks then. Slide 7. So this would be, another one would be installing information and operating systems that enable company personnel to perform essential activities. 2, tying rewards directly to achievement of performance objectives. So one example I could think of, again, from my internship as well, would be rewarding salespeople with a bonus if quotas are met. We also had, our managers would sometimes come in on a Friday, and the person that set the most meetings that day would then in turn get $100 from the manager. So rewarding your employees and incentivizing them to do their job and do their job well is a great way to keep strategic focus. The third one here would be fostering a corporate culture that promotes good strategy execution. So I believe that would be more along the lines of promoting a good corporate ethical culture. And number 4 would be exerting the internal leadership needed to propel implementation forward. So that comes down to what I can consider hiring leaders. You don't want to hire people that are just going to follow suit with everyone else. You want to hire people that are leaders, that are go-getters, and that are organized people that are ready to execute the strategy effectively. So the next slide, slide 12. Building an organization capable of good strategy execution. There's 3 key actions. Number 1, you have to staff the workforce with leaders, hard workers, and intelligent individuals. Number 2, acquire, develop, and strengthen strategy by allocating resources effectively and managing around a changing market. Number 3, structuring the organization with streamlined communication and processes. So all 3 of these are kind of, again, more of what I've already been talking about in the previous slides. Hiring leaders, hard workers, acquiring and developing those people, and making sure they have the resources that they need, and then also structuring the organization so that communication is streamlined across the board, all the way from the top down to the bottom. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jared Roy, and he's going to start with staffing the organization.
So starting with slide 13, staffing the organization. So this is, there's 2 sides to this. There's, you need to structure the capable management team, but then there's also the recruiting and retaining of capable workforce. So the hiring and firing/training. So when it comes to the structure of a capable management team, you need results-oriented managers. Obviously you need the results. Strategy implementation skills. This is what this whole chapter is about, and if you can't get the strategy, they have managers that implement the strategy effectively, then these initiatives will just go unfinished. Strengthen the skills of those around them as well. And then recruiting, you need to hire the right people for the job, provide training for all levels of the company, and find, develop, and retain employees for the best results. And so with that, developing and retaining, if someone's a good worker, promoting them, bringing them up the ladder as well. And then moving to slide 14. The reason that I wanted to include this video was it really shows the four different ways that you can be as an employee, and I think Jack Welch shows it, explains it very very effectively. So essentially, you can be a results based manager. Um, so you can deliver the numbers, but then you also need to portray the values of the company as well. So you can either A, be neither. So you can not produce results or not have the values. And he said that's pretty easy. You fire the person. And then two, you can have those that deliver the numbers, deliver the results, um, but um, do not have the values. And he said that this is the worst manager. He said this is the worst behavior. And with that, promotion is worth. He said the promotion is worth 1,000 speeches. So if you give these managers or these individuals, employees that don't have the moral code of the company a promotion just because they got the numbers, that can be a very, very, very bad hindrance on the growth and belief within your workforce of the company's values. And so then the other two are you can have the person that believes in the values and what the company is saying, but does not have the results. Jack said that with this person, sometimes you have to give them two or three chances. They're learning some things maybe going on in their home life, but definitely give this person a couple chances because they are bought into what the company is saying. And then lastly, there's what everyone wants, and that's the numbers person that produces the results, and those who are bought in, the company's message as well. So that person, promotion, um, and keep and develop. And so then moving on to slide 15, 5 tactics for recruiting and retaining a high performance workforce. So pair them with effective mentors. Um, I saw this I saw this in firsthand with my internship, within sales. If you if you pair a new hire with an experienced sales rep, it's very, very, very effective. And this experienced sales rep, if they're very open to questions, you can get a lot accomplished through a comfortable relationship between a new hire and an experienced sales rep. Give them high visibility assignments. So task them with things that are maybe a little out of their comfort zone. Show that you are giving them a chance, that you trust them, and you want to see them go out of their comfort zone, and you believe in them. Openly communicate with them. Just keep very honest conversation. Invest in their learning and development. So continually train, the continuous development aspect of growth. So constantly developing them, fine tuning them, even if they have been in the company for a while. So then measure progress quarterly. It's important to have these quarterly meetings, in showing that you are staying on top of seeing their performance, because a lot of the times if you go longer than a quarter, employees can be discouraged. So keeping that quarterly progress measuring meeting, I think is a very, very important aspect to management. Okay, so then we're moving on into GoPro specifically. So the three approaches to building and strengthening capabilities. So there's the internal development. So this is I'm going to provide examples of how GoPro crossed this box and accomplished these initiatives. So internal development, GoPro develops innovative cameras each year. So the 4K, just constantly doing R&D on the cameras itself. And then acquire capabilities through mergers and acquisitions. So that's when An example of that was when GoPro purchased Colar, a French software company. So that shows that they're trying to increase their capabilities through mergers. And then accessing capabilities through partnerships. So GoPro partnered with Ford, Wimbledon, and Real Madrid. So those are more marketing based and getting the name of GoPro out. And then matching organizational structure to the strategy. So it's important to have the structure. If the structure isn't built correctly and it's outdated, then the strategy can only be accomplished so much. So when matching organizational structure to strategy, there has to be a clear chain of communication starting with customer-based activities. And so in order to change strategies in the future, the company cannot have an outdated organizational structure. The success of the strategy could be limited, like I said earlier. The structure of an organization also incorporates new or different key activities and capabilities. So it's important to not ignore the structuring of a company before you implement your strategy. It needs to be part of your strategy.
Hello everybody, my name is Nicholas Norris. Today I'll be presenting to you guys slides 18 through 28 in group 5 with my group. Hoping that you guys can actually see everything on the TV today as I go through all the slides. Starting off with slide 18 right now, I'll be talking about the instituting strategy, supported policies and procedures on all companies throughout the world. Companies' policies and procedures can either become a help or they can become a barrier to good strategy execution. Now, good strategy execution is very imperative for a company to stay alive, to stay productive, to have their market value above flow per se. There are 3 main organizational types of structure, where there's a functional, divisional, or a matrix one. All of them have their own specific meaning per se. Starting with the functional structure. Functional structure is set up so that each portion of the organization is grouped according to its purpose. The coordination and communication can be restricted because of departments working separately. So, you can have your marketing department, you can have your IT department, you can have your tons of departments all around a huge company. It can cause confusion upon what is needed for the product. So customers have specific demands, and if each department is not coming to an agreeing consensus upon the demand, then their product will not be profitable in the long run per se. Going down to the divisional structure. Divisional structure is more likely in the larger companies operating in a wide geographic area, or smaller orgs covering different products or market areas. Needs can be met more rapidly and more specifically. Now, with orgs like these, such like GoPro kind of benefits in this. Like GoPro, they can go into a Best Buy and just immediately be productive inside the store, because even though they are a smaller company, they can be a divisional structure and just branch out into all around the world per se. As a matrix structure, it allows the benefits of a functional and divisional structure to exist all in one organization. But this creates power struggles from having dual management in most areas of the company. So one key thing that all companies have is this thing called manager monitoring. Manager monitoring is very important. I think I already mentioned it, but manager monitoring it ensures that employees are doing their job. It helps managers to see what demands is out there from customers in order for them to give feedback to the company. So therefore the company can immediately make that change to their strategy execution. Going to our very next slide, organizational change and good strategy execution can be viewed in 3 different ways. It gives discipline, consistency to show how strategy critical activities are performed. It provides top-down guidance for activities to ensure counteracting actions for people resisting change. It promotes a working environment to good strategy execution used by managers to change company culture. Basically, all of these will be beneficial if the company actually put the nail on the hammer on them and pay attention to it. Going to our very next slide. Before I jump into to the question, policy making problem occurs when activities needs to be prescribed or determining what activities can act independently under empowered personnel. Another key thing is too much policy can raise difficulties and erupt barriers to good strategies, implementation, excuse me. And what these problems is that if companies have too much restrictions going on inside of a store or inside of their actual organization, it can restrain them from branching out into a new market. It can restrain them from going into a new country to see what product demands are out there. So having too much policy can harm and hinder a company at the same time. Now, the question I will be asking is, how can a company like GoPro assure that their organizational structure, policies remain ethical and beneficial to production in their company? Also indicate what type of structure GoPro follows. And it really can be kind of idealized for you to see what kind of structure GoPro follow. I think I kind of previously mentioned it already earlier in the video, excuse me. So going forward to the very next slides, it'd be the management tools for continuous improvement in processes and activities. Starting with our very first bullet point, aiming for operating excellence, companies relies on 3 management tools. The very first one is business processing reengineering. This is the creation of cross-functional work groups or the unifying of strategy critical activities by performance to place them in single departments. So therefore you have your marketing, you have your IT, you have I can't really think of a lot of departments out there right now, but basically you have multiple departments all working together independently in order for them to see a specific demand out there, or in order for them to make sure that the company is still being productive in the long run. Going to the very next one is total quality management. This concentrates on the production of quality goods and fully satisfying customers' expectations. So therefore, totally quality management is the production side of the company. So warehouses. Now this is where the market research can also take place into that too, because with that research, we're able to find what customers are liking, what customers are seeking to have inside of a product. And GoPro has been doing a very good job making sure that they're trying to stay up to date, even though they had a couple years of falling down below. But Nick Woodman, the founder of GoPro, has been doing a good job to make sure he's staying in the loop of what's going on in the trends per se. Going to the very next third one is Six Sigma quality control. From manufacturing to customer transaction, consists of a statistics, based system producing no more than 3.4 defects per million iterations. Six Sigma defines, measures, analyzes, improves, and controls in organization processes. Basically, what that Six Sigma thing is it's a certification that a lot of people have to get, because it's software that you have to know how to run in order for you to get statistics, data from around the world for customers that the demands that they're needing, whether if they're purchasing products or whether if they're just not even having no type of interest into it at all. Going to our very next slide is business process reengineering versus continuous improvement programs. Now, both of them aims at improved efficiency, better product quality, and greater customer satisfaction. But the BPR aims at proportional gains of 30% to 50%, and in a never-ending cycle. CIP stresses incremental progress is by striving inch by inch. Now, this is a very, very great video upon how GoPro has been changing its product over the years. Ben, who's with Authentech, goes into some key points about how GoPro has been changing, whether if it's their 360 degree, camera, or whether if it's their hyper stabilization camera for their GoPro 8. And with the video, I started from 1 minute and 40 seconds, and it would end at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Within that little 6 minute time frame, you can see the change over the years and basically see how Nick Woolman has been paying attention to the customers' demands out there. Going into our very next slide is installing informations and operating systems. A number of internal operation systems is imperative for the executions of company strategies and value creating internal processes. There are 5 broad areas that are tracked and reported by information systems. The first one is customer data, operations data, the employee data, the supplier partnership data, and the financial performance data. All of them is very, very important to get, to have. All of them is very, very important to track, because if you do not track these, you will not have feasible data that you can look back on and reflect on to see what product change that needs to be done, or what steps needs to be changed for your strategy execution for the company. Going to the very next slide is the partnership and strategic allies. This is very, very important. There are 5 general criteria that differentiate strategic alliances from conventional alliances. The very first one is critical to the success of a core business goal or objective. The very second one is critical to the development or maintenance of a core competency, or other sources of competitive advantage. 3, it blocks competitive threat. 4, it creates or maintains strategic choices for the firm. And 5, it migrates a specific risk for the business. Now it's very important that a company pays attention to these 5 areas when it comes into going into finding partners for the company. Partnership can help a company in the long run as well as in the short run, because like I mentioned for bullet point 3, number 3, it blocks that threat. So therefore, you're taking away a competitor that you have out there by joining an alliance with them. And that alliance, they probably can have resources that you do not have, or you can have resources that they have. And it can basically balance each other out and be more productive in the long run. In the video, we're here, they had a conversation with the founder of Nick Woolman. Nick Woolman basically gave you the bottom line of how GoPro was established. And with this video, I just want you guys to think about how GoPro can create an alliance or a partnership with a company out there in order for them to follow their strategic execution, or for them to benefit their strategic execution. And I'll be passing it off now.
Using rewards and incentives to promote better strategy execution. So a lot of companies do this just to kind of promote going above and beyond rather than just doing what's expected of you with your job title. So to create rewards and incentive systems that is strategy supported, the company must focus on rewarding employees for accomplishing results that create value for customers and the company. So like I just said, they should not be rewarded for completing assigned tasks. It should be a focus on what to achieve rather than just what to do. So rewards and incentives come in both monetary and non-monetary forms. So let's talk about that. Maybe. So guidelines for designing monetary incentive systems. So below, or here, you will see the list of the guidelines for kind of putting monetary incentive systems into effect. So you want to make performance pay off a major piece of the total compensation package. Have incentives that extend to all managers and all workers. So you don't just want to have it like for a specific group. You want to have each employee be able to kind of receive these rewards if they do what's expected of them and go above and beyond. So administer the reward system with scrupulous objectivity and fairness. So obviously you don't want to just be rewarding the same people every time. You want to make sure that you're rewarding the workers that truly deserve it and just not picking favorites. So tie the incentives to strategy execution and financial performance. So this can go for like sales companies. A lot of them use quotas, and if those sales reps reach their quotas, they receive a bonus. Set performance targets that individuals or teams can personally affect. So this goes into like the example of quotas again, just using those that kind of shows the employees what they need to accomplish in order to receive the reward or incentive. So keep the time between achieving the target performance outcome and payment of the reward as short as possible. So you don't want to have your sales rep meet their quota and then not give them the bonus 2 quarters later. You want to make sure that you're paying out those rewards and incentives as quickly as possible so that it doesn't seem like you're just saying, oh, we'll give you this if you do this. You actually want to do it. So, question. There is always the chance that a monetary reward may not be feasible or it may not entice every employee. What are some non-monetary rewards that can motivate employees? So this goes into, obviously, some people, they make a lot with their salary and they don't necessarily want more money. Non-monetary rewards can go into promotions and trusting them with more information and just making them feel like they're more important. So some non-monetary rewards used for motivation, they include provide attractive perks and fringe benefits, adopt promotion from within policies, act on suggestions from employees, create a work atmosphere where there is sincerity, caring, and mutual respect among all employees, share information with employees about financial performance, strategy, operational measures, market conditions, and competitors' actions, and have attractive office spaces and facilities. So, instilling a corporate culture that promotes good strategy execution. So, what is corporate culture? Apparently we can't watch that on here. So this video basically is just an animation just kind of showing like what good company culture entails. So a corporate culture, it's the firm's organizational DNA, its approach to how they manage their people. So it's is comprised of shared core values, beliefs, and business principles that are ingrained in employee behaviors and attitudes. Defines its operating style, so the chemistry of the firm's work environment, so how we do things around here. The core concept of this chapter is corporate culture, so a company's internal work climate shaped by core concepts, beliefs, and business principles, and it is important because it influences a company's traditions, work practices, and styles of operating. So there are 2 types of cultures. There's high performance and there is adaptive. So for high performance, traits of that include a can-do spirit, pride in doing things the right way, no excuses, accountability, a results-oriented work environment in which people go the extra mile to achieve performance targets. Characteristics of a high performance culture include a strong sense of involvement of all employees, an emphasis on individual creativity and initiative, clear statement of performance expectations, prompt addressing of critical issues, and constructive pressure to achieve good results. So another discussion point, if a company does not yet have a high performance culture, what can they do to create one? So this video also, if you want to go check it out, it also kind of has an animation that explains like high performance culture and what can be done to create one. But basically you want to have managers and supervisors who kind of walk the walk and not just like say, oh, we can do this, whatever. You want managers that kind of portray this culture so that employees catch on and kind of adapt to the work environment that they're in. So that brings us to adaptive cultures. Adaptive cultures are very supportive of managers and employees at all ranks who propose or help initiate useful change. These cultures are well suited to fast-changing industries such as retail, service, so like fast food to taxi drivers to marketing, anything that's always changing and customer wants and needs are always changing as well, and consumer electronics. As a company's strategy evolves, an adaptive culture is a definite ally in the strategy execution process. Characteristics of adaptive cultures include willingness to accept change and embrace the change of introducing and executing new strategies, internal entrepreneurship on the part of individuals and groups encouraged and rewarded, adopting a proactive approach to identifying issues, evaluating the implications and options, and quickly moving ahead with workable solutions. So which culture would you think GoPro would benefit from having the most, high performance or adaptive? Personally, I believe that as of right now, I would say they have a high performance culture. They're very, we can do this, we can produce these products, we can satisfy our customers. I think they need to be a little more adaptive just because they do fall in that consumer electronics category. I would say with being adaptive, they need to just kind of know how their consumer behaviors are changing and be willing to put in the work to adapt to those. So, traits of unhealthy corporate cultures. Highly politicized internal environment, so issues are resolved on the basis of political clout. Unaccepting of change, they avoid risks. Experimentation and efforts to alter the status quo are discouraged. Insular, inwardly focused mindset. Personnel discount the need to look outside for best practices and not invented here mindset. So basically with this, they don't believe in kind of coming up with ideas from within. They just look at what other businesses have done or what has made them successful and then try to piggyback off of that. There's a disregard for high ethical standards and presence of incompatible clashing subcultures. So if a company deems itself as unhealthy, how can they go about changing their culture? So basically this could be brought into as like a step-by-step process, and we will talk about that now. So from figure 10.2 in our textbook, the steps in changing a problem culture. So step 1 is identify facets of present culture that are conducive to good strategy execution and operating excellence and those that are not. Step 2, specify what new actions, behaviors, and work practices should be prominent in the new culture. Step 3, talk openly about problems or present culture and how new behaviors will improve performance. And step 4, follow with visible, forceful actions, both substantive and symbolic, to ingrain a new set of behaviors, practices, and cultural norms. So in step 4, it talks about how there's substantive and symbolic actions. So these are both important if you actually wish to make the change that you're trying to make in your culture. You can't just do one or the other. You do need both, and we will go on to talk about why. So first, you must make a compelling case for why your culture needs a change. So why is there a need for change? So you want to cite the reasons the current strategy has to be modified and why the new strategic initiatives are being undertaken. Next, you want to cite why and how current behavioral norms and work practices are obstacles to new strategic initiatives. Then, explain how new behaviors and work practices will produce better results. Next, after making a persuasive case for changing what is deemed to be a problem culture, management must quickly follow up with forceful, high-profile actions across several fronts. Actions to implant the new culture must be both substantive and symbolic, like I just said. So, substantive culture-changing actions. So these actions include replacing key executives who stonewall needed organizational and cultural changes, promoting individuals who have stepped forward to advocate the shift to a different culture and who can serve as role models for the desired cultural behavior, appointing outsiders with the desired cultural attributes to high-profile positions, bringing in new breed managers sends an unambiguous message that a new era is dawning. Screening all candidates for new positions carefully, hiring only those who appear to fit with the new culture. Mandating that all company personnel attend cultural training programs to better understand the culture-related actions and behaviors that are expected. Designing compensation incentives that boost the pay of teams and individuals who display the desired cultural behaviors while hitting change resistors in the pocketbook. So this would go back into like the rewards and incentives. This is something that if you are trying to make a change in your company, utilizing those rewards and incentives can really kind of push that change. And then revising policies and procedures in ways that will help drive cultural change. So now symbolic cultural changing actions. So these actions include leading by executive example, So executives must be alert to the fact that the company personnel will be watching their actions and decisions to see if they are walking the talk. So this just goes back to, you want to make sure that your higher ups, managers, supervisors, all that are actually complying to the new cultural changes. Just because, employees are obviously going to be looking up to them, and if they see them not, adjusting or doing what's right, they can say, oh, like, obviously I don't need to either. And so executives must promote the strategy as well. So fit into the culture by appearing at ceremonial functions to celebrate the culture and praise individuals and groups that get with the program. And then showing up at employee training programs to stress strategic priorities, values, ethical principles, and cultural norms. And now I will pass it off to Jared.
Slide 40. And leading the execution process. So this goes more into management specifically and leading the execution process. So there's 3 actions to lead the drive for good strategy execution, operating excellence. So staying on top of what's happening, closely monitoring the progress, putting constructive pressure on the organization to execute the strategy well and achieve operational excellence, and initiating corrective actions to improve strategy execution and the targeted performance results. So this is basically the managers being involved. You're not going to be able to execute strategy through an involvement. So being involved, asking the managers, asking even the operational level employees how it's going, and just getting a full understanding of how the process is going. So I actually included the 8 model because it shows how the execution of a strategy, it links the connection between the overall organization and the individual. So the top of the figure 8 is the organization, and then below is the individual, and it shows how the strategy of the organization, it starts at the top of the 8 and it goes down, and how it comes to the individual, and the individual needs to work on himself as well as the organization to achieve this strategy. So both circles are really spinning once the communication of what the strategy is out. And so at the end of the circle on both sides, you're going to have the viewing, kind of reviewing of how you are doing with the strategy, and grading yourself, and the organization is grading itself on how they're achieving it. And then boom, not restarting, but continuing to try to execute the strategy. And so going into slide 41. So this is kind of more of a fun slide. I wanted to show managers or CEOs that actually do get involved themselves. So the first video is Tim Cook visits an Apple store on iPhone X launch. So it's kind of funny seeing him be so involved, and it seems normal because he always goes to this store, I guess, when new products launch, and so no one really treats it super differently, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So with questions coming from this, I'd like to bring up what benefits arise from a CEO being involved in operational activity. So what things can actually come out of, what benefits can come out of that, and with that, have you seen examples of this in your work life? I know I have. Even if it wasn't the CEO, my past internship, we had several people coming on the C level to visit the interns, the group of our interns, and kind of give us a presentation and talk to us. And so seeing that these busy individuals were able to sit down or present to us young interns and give that time truly meant a lot, and you can see that they're trying to buy into the development of their employees. And then the second video is a funny comical video of Gordon Ramsay going into one of his restaurants and being an employee, a waiter, and doing all these mess ups, and you can see the crumbling of all the employees of, wow, we need to fire this waiter right now. He shouldn't be allowed to do anything. And then at the end, he reveals that it's Gordon Ramsay, and I thought that was kind of a comical video. So lastly, I'd like to ask, how could GoPro's CEO Nick Woodman leverage this initiative? So how do you think that some of his what good results could come out of it, and B, what bad results could have, or what bad things could have maybe been prevented from happening in the past, if he would have been more involved internally. So this is kind of broad, universal concepts, but it's to foster a results-oriented, high-performance culture. You need to achieve these things. So treat employees with dignity and respect, encourage employee initiative and creativity, set stretch objectives and clearly communicate expectations, focus attention on continuous improvement, use motivation and compensation to reward high performance, celebrate individual, group, and company success. So it's kind of universal, not too in the weeds there. So initiating corrective actions to improve both the company's strategy and its execution. So this is twofold. So it's twofold. So you need to, when the adjustments are needed, you need to initiate these actions and deciding what adjustments to make. So it's kind of getting the ball rolling and deciding where the ball goes. So leaders' responsibility is to step forward and push corrective actions if needed. So it's kind of that, when you're a leader, you're tasked with more and more responsibility, and you have to understand and realize what's happening and be able to correct that when issues occur. And that is it for my sections of the slide. Thank you.